Hi, I'm David Gale, and welcome to ACTRA Spotlight, where we're building the Canadian star system one podcast at a time. Today on Spotlight, ACTRA Award-winning actor-turned-writer-director Joey Klein. His passion project, Castle in the Ground, is a masterful depiction of addiction and love, and it's almost as colorful as Joey's language. Enjoy. Okay, brother, listen. What does it feel like to be chosen Now Magazine's 10 must-see Canadian films and tips this year? What's that mean to the actual film?
Yeah, I guess I don't know quite yet. It's always the validation is undeniable. It'd be kind of bullshit to be like, yeah, who cares about that stuff? Everyone cares about that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I like Norm. I respect him as a journalist. I think sometimes the way things are going in that world, it's so tough for people to have regular jobs doing that I think there's been a drop in quality, in certain papers, like the Village Voice just folded. And leading up to that, when you would read some of the film criticisms in it, I was like, you just don't even know what the context is. So it's meaningful to me coming from Norm. And I know he dug my first film, so I just appreciate that he's kind of keeping an eye out for the things that he believed in. And with the list of the other people, many of them who are friends and who I know, it's a beautiful thing to be on that list, sure.
And for those who don't know, Norm is the Now Magazine.
Sorry, Norm Wilner, yeah. He's I guess he's not the main, there's 2 or 3 mains, but Norm reviews a wide variety of works and keeps, I think, personally, a pretty objective and just kind of curated, educated tone.
Right, and so the film is Castle in the Ground, and I'm lucky enough to have seen it's a rough, I guess.
That was a picture lock with temp everything.
Temp everything, but even with temp everything, the performances were certainly not temp, the editing was not temp. Thanks. It was very, very strong piece, and difficult. You want to just tell a little story of, I'm sure you've been pitching this film for a long time now. How long have you been working on the film?
That's a fair question. It wasn't the longest turnaround. It's funny, I kind of always feel like I've never pitched anything. I suppose it's not the Hollywood thing, where you pitch. It's I know the funders now because I've made one other film, so you certainly have to get them on board. But that tends to be, they read the script, they look at your vision for how you'll direct it. They also know your last film, so they keep in mind, what did you do last time? And then a big consideration is the cast in terms of so-called market value and all that. So I feel like I've never really pitched it, but talked about it a bunch. And I guess to me it's about, I don't want to get on a soapbox and preach to the converted, so I hope I didn't with this film, but I guess to me it's just about trying to put a little bit of love out when it comes to, it involves the opiate epidemic, of course, in 2012 in Sudbury. And it is about 2 people who in different ways get ensnared in that world and strangely become each other's only friend, and they end up in quite a dangerous situation together. But I suppose for me, what runs through it are just elements of how today there seems to be in the culture a phobia of pain in every way, to the point where there's these intersectional kinds of addiction. It's not just opiates in the film. The best of religion, if it means something to somebody, is beautiful. But I've experienced growing up in private school in Montreal a way that religion becomes an addiction, and people get addicted to this idea of what in Hebrew it's Hashem, God, the name it means. And it doesn't always seem to be about love. It sometimes seems to be about, away from running from fear or pain. And similarly with the main character is addicted to taking care of people more than anything and trying to save this person because he couldn't save someone else. So there's intersectional elements of addiction in the film that I guess replace facing pain and end up leading these people into a dangerous situation. And I guess I'm curious about in the current world, in the current way that communities are structured, or the lack of communities that we deal with, and the way the culture is pregnant with certain kinds of I don't know, superhero films, or become the zeitgeist, wherein even 15, 20 years ago that was not the case. So to me, all those things being true, I wonder about how does love and human connection and intimacy poke through all of that when you have at the top of it all right now, I hate, and I know I'm giving you a long-winded answer, but I hate these euphemistic, like, opiate crisis, opiate epidemic is such a fucking easy way to let off Johnson & Johnson and Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family and all these people who manufactured a Holocaust, because I think a Holocaust is 2 million deaths, and it's well over 500,000, and sadly it's just going to continue to get worse. So insofar as it involves this opiate genocide, I'm just hoping that there's a small way that love still survives it all, and I hope the film puts out a little bit of love and truth about it.
Yeah, well, it certainly does have love. I mean,
Thanks.
What I was really struck by also is that throughout this whole thing, the innocence. There was still innocence in this film, and the main character. I mean, I don't know how much you want to give away. I mean, what he goes through. Almost in a dream state at times, maintained a quality of innocence that was surprising to me.
Thanks.
Because the journey that he goes on is certainly is breaking down that innocence, but he still retains that, which is pretty darn amazing. So it's your second feature, and you're tackling the opioid crisis and religious elements and loss of parents and big life issues. I mean, where did that come from? I mean, you're the writer as well, so where does stuff like that come from?
I think it's a little bit like acting, like I went to Circle in the Square in New York, and I really loved that school, and one of the first things that resonated for me in the language that was used is that it's never literal. You don't need to go be a serial killer to play a serial killer, but you need to, we all know in this room, we're all actors, that you have to find a way to be specific and personal and find a way to walk in those shoes. And I don't personally have any experience with drugs, to be honest, and I really don't think there's anything wrong with trying drugs and experimenting, and I haven't, just for my own reasons, but all the elements of actual drug use comes from research, people I've known, people really close to me who have fallen into those worlds. The elements of intersectional addiction and the curiosity about how that affects love and where that leaves us at the end of the day. I guess it's just being alive on this planet right now. Like it's, I guess, kind of became undeniable. In terms of the loss of a parent, I'm very fortunate both my parents are alive, but I know what loss is like. I know what grief is like. My first film was about a grieving man who falls in love with this woman who has bipolar disorder. None of those things I literally knew about. I never lost a brother either. But while none of it's literal, it's all very personal. And it becomes this thing of the undeniable. And my friend Jess Salguero, she's an actor. She's a really brilliant actress. And she watched a podcast, TED Talks, where the lady who wrote Eat, Pray, Love talked about how we are not geniuses. We have a genius that visits us. I'm not talking about genius or not genius, but with this writing process, sometimes it just feels like a possession of a kind, and then you come out the other end and you're like, I don't even remember doing that on a level. I know it sounds hoiky-poiky, but...
Hoiky poiky, that's Hebrew, right?
It was kind of a slanged up hocus pocus Yiddish bastardization.
Full disclosure, I too graduated from a Hebrew high school.
So really?
I have to
Toronto
say
or
that,
Montreal?
Winnipeg.
Oh, damn.
Interesting that you went there, but but that was a long time ago.
They brainwash you too.
So you've got writer director going on, and you're an actor as well. What when you've been switching more to the writer-director in your career, what was the biggest adjustment I think you would have to make in that switch?
I guess the same fear that happened when I started to act. I didn't do anything creative till I was in my 20s. I had no idea that I wanted to do these things till I got into my 20s. And when I figured out I wanted to act, it took me a while to not say with great shame and this kind of imposter feeling like I'm an actor. And I think probably for me, going through theater school meant on the other side that I could be like, I'm an actor. And the hardest adjustment was not feeling like an imposter and not feeling wholly delusional, because you sit in a coffee shop and you write the speculative script that no one's asked you to write, and you're not getting in any way remunerated for it yet, and it's madness. And if you don't have extraordinarily supportive parents and family and friends and a community that you can surround yourself in, I don't think I would have come close to being able to do it. And then just that first day of your first film, like I was very prepared. I worked with Bobby Shore, who's a definite genius in my mind, and he's one of my best friends. He's a beautiful cinematographer, and we were very prepared, but he came up to me on the first day of my first film, and it was just a tiny little thing, like, were we going to walk in Tommy, the actor Tom Cullen, like, were we just going to pan him into the bar, or were we just going to be framed up on the bar and let him walk in? And I just remember my brains being like, I have no fucking clue what you're saying right now, and I literally don't think I should be here. And I just had a panic attack in my brains the same way I did once on stage. And then you work through it, and then you realize, like, oh, I worked hard, and so whether you like the shit I'm making or not, I actually know how to do my shit. And I say that because I think any actor could transition if they wanted to. It's just a question of, like, studying cinema. That's what I did. I studied. Like, I'm a cinema dork.
Right. And some of it you did on the job, it sounds like.
As an actor?
When you were directing and you said you didn't know what the hell you
Oh,
were doing.
God, yes. God, yes. But that's kind of the thing with, like, you know, our homework as an actor. Like, we say we do our homework so we can throw it away. But, like, that first take, if you haven't acted in a bit, I don't know, speaking for myself, I'll be stiff. I won't really be listening. I'll be, like, realizing I'm holding my breath. But once you just can, like, breathe and be there and just listen, your homework is there. And I think it's just the same thing with filmmaking. If you prepared the way you needed to prepare for your film, whatever that is for you, and you just have to trust that, one day you just literally definitely are a filmmaker. Or you're not, but you find that out pretty quickly, I think.
And making a film, it takes a lot of chutzpah. I think that's what you were looking for, too,
Nice,
at one point. And gumption, they used to say.
Yeah.
Right? Getting into TIFF with a film on your second film, I think that might be a little bit rare. And what does it take to get into TIFF?
That's a tough one to answer. And
well, good. I like tough questions.
Oh, I mean, listen, I want to be honest about everything, so I'm sorry. I'll say preemptively, I might offend everybody. I don't want to put TIFF on that kind of a pedestal. I'm very pleased to be there, and I've seen so many wonderful films there. My first film played at South by Southwest, and I would never personally rate TIFF over that in terms of the experience I had, in terms of the people I met, in terms of the person who runs that festival. TIFF is amazing, obviously. Like, it's undeniable, and the opportunities that have already been presented to me just in terms of, you know, meetings and these things, it's wonderful. But I think I got more love for Albert Shin and Amy and, you know, this amazing filmmaker I just met named Sanya who's got Easyland in the festival. I got much more love for these filmmakers who are walking these tightropes than, you know, the machinery of things. And I think that there's human beings at that festival who are amazing, who are film dorks, and you get fortunate they happen to dig your film. Like, I know I'm there because Ravi and Steve just dug it. And I got much love to the love they've shown. We got the film in on a fine cut, and that's, like, I'm so humbled and touched, and they've been so generous and cool and ambassadors, you know, for film in general. And I love all of them for that. But I'm saying all this because I think there's some great film out there that didn't get in, and there's some poop film that did. And I just think the folks that didn't get in, you know, you get that feeling of, oh, I'm not in TIFF. Because we live here. It's the biggest, best, you know, it's one of the top 3 festivals in the world.
Toronto International Film Festival.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
No. I think I'm helping people who might not know what
sorry,
TIFF is. No, I'm doing it too. Like TIFF. What's TIFF?
Yeah, I think that it's. I don't know what it takes. I think that I also have to be honest. Like, I got fucking stars in the film. They love that shit. If I made the exact same film without stars, would it be in? I have no idea. I'd like to think yes, because again, Ravi and Steve got behind the flick I made, and that touches my heart.
They're the programmers.
But it's a huge place. It's like you're dealing with any of the huge machinery in any industry, including the film industry. Like, there's just politics, and I don't want to sit here and be like, I got in because my film's great. Like, there's many reasons I got in.
So where do you think you get this anti-establishment streak in your personality? Where does that come from?
I love artists, and it's a big word. I don't like to say artists, but creative people, professional creative people who you know, everyone takes a chance on their lives if they get into this industry. You know, it's easier to go be a banker, but I got a lot of beautiful friends who, some of them are doing amazing right now, some of them in this moment are doing less well, but they've given their lives to this cause and they bleed for it, and when they work, it costs them something, and it's a beautiful and holy thing to me. And the best of any establishment's great, and there's evils at everything. There's evils in all of us. But once you get into the big machinery of something, I don't know, I've just been alive too long to not be skeptical about, you know, we're in late stage capitalist days. This ain't capitalism. This is late stage capitalism, and I'm probably a bit of a socialist, so maybe that's where it comes from.
But you have to play the game in order to get the film seen, and
I was lucky to be honest, I think I'm a bit fortunate. I don't really have to play a game. I have people who play the game for me. Like I don't mean that like a jerk. I just mean like I'm not on Twitter and Instag, and ain't nobody gonna make me be on that. It makes me feel sick, and I don't want to. I just like I'm not trying to be difficult. I just feel sick doing it. Like, this is nice. I'm looking at you. I don't want to do this with you over Instagram.
Right.
I'm born in 1977. It makes me feel ill. Like, it actually makes me feel depressed. And all I've had to do so far as a filmmaker to my, which I know is very fortunate, is come up with something some folks wanted to do. And I was fortunate that the folks that wanted to do it brought some oomph. So I met Tatiana Maslany on a film as an actor.
Right. And she was in your first feature.
Yeah, and it was before Orphan Black. She was already a juggernaut, It was undeniable she was like a world-class actress, but she didn't have the oomph that she has now. And she just read what I had back then and dug it. And by the time it was time to make it, she was very successful. But stayed utterly loyal and committed and sacrificed, as did Tom Cullen, a lot to get the film made. So I didn't have to play games or anything. I had to put my fee in on my first film, but that's no problem. That's a fair sacrifice.
I mean that you didn't.
I didn't get paid. I got paid something in development money, but me and my producer Nicole Hilliard-Ford put their fees in to close the financing gap. So there's things you have to sacrifice, but I didn't have to do things where I felt like fuck, I just sold my soul.
Right.
And thus far I haven't had to do that.
And that would be doing things like Twitter and Instagram and
I'm
Facebook.
not willing to do it.
Okay.
I'm just not.
There's a line in the sand here.
There is.
I hear that.
Well, I've been poor before, and I've been, at times on the cusp of not knowing what the hell I do. So it doesn't scare me because I've been there. I'd much rather, live and die by my own sword than drink a bunch of Kool-Aid that's going to hurt a lot longer.
So now, as a writer-director, perhaps that's not the imperative, especially as you say, you have people who do that stuff for you, because getting your film out there is very important.
Yes.
Because if people don't see it or hear about it, then it's never going to be seen or heard. But as an actor, more and more in this day and age, if you don't have a Twitter following, if you don't have an Instagram following, if you don't have some kind of social presence, they might not hire you. So are you just going to...
I mean, have you looked at my resume? I haven't exactly worked a ton in the last year and whatever.
You think
I
it's
haven't
because
tried,
of that?
dude, to be... No. I mean, I'm not in the game anymore. And I just want to be really clear. I don't mean I have people as in I have people. I just mean we have distributors. I'm lucky that the actors I've had don't mind doing that stuff, and they have huge followings. So it's not necessary for me to do it. I have that luxury. And I do feel like, to be honest, distributors... That's their job. Don't come direct the film for me. I ain't gonna go do your job. I'm gonna trust you're really good at the thing you do. As an actor, if I was focused on it right now and it was the only thing I was doing, I would likely have to either just accept that or get out of the game, because I couldn't. I actually, I'm sorry if this sounds like a stoinky thing to say.
That's
but
another Hebrew word, by the way.
No, I just made that. I mean, I didn't just make stoinky just means I don't want to be a douchebag, but when I won the thingy here, I ain't trying to bring that up, but the point is that's all I talked about on stage. That's all I talked about was these goddamn YouTube assholes who have cats on their head and are eating soup, and everyone's like, give them 17 million followers, and it's just you've taken a lowest common denominator and plummeted it so far into the ground that then when you look at a culture that is sick and a world that is falling apart, you can't say, well, how did this happen? You can't say, how did Donald Trump become president? But look at all the ways in which standards have just plummeted. And I'm not saying A equals B, but I'm saying a whole bunch of variables compound, and you can't ask yourself, why is this such a toxic situation?
Right. So I think you just said that Trump got elected because of cat videos. I'm not sure, but I think that's what
I definitely think that, yeah.
Thank you. I think you're right. What was I going to say? Because I now have to gather my thoughts
Sorry.
here. No.
We shouldn't talk about that.
No,
that'll
it's
just be
fantastic.
endless. We obviously all hate him, and what's the point of talking about
I was thinking about
I don't
this
even
just
hate him.
in the broad terms of things. It almost feels like producers are happy that we're trying to promote ourselves because it helps them. So they're because it doesn't cost them anything.
Fucking doing their jobs for them, man.
Exactly.
That.
Exactly. So now you've got this film and TIFF, and so there's a whole circuit of film festivals. Where are you at with that circuit, and how do you get on that, or do you want to be on that?
Yeah, fair question. I think it's funny. TIFF is a wonderful place to start out, and there's a huge privilege as a Canadian filmmaker to premiere at TIFF, other than the obvious, again, like in case it's not clear, TIFF is amazing. It's top 3 festival. It's amazing to have your film in there. But as a Canadian, it's a huge advantage because you haven't spent your international premiere or an American premiere. So for context, like I got my first film in a South by Southwest, but I'm a Canadian. So right away, my world premiere, my international premiere, and my American premiere are all spent. So all the Tribecas of the world and all that, it becomes a pissing contest at festivals. And when you want your film to play at TIFF after South by, whatever the many variables would be, maybe they just don't like your film. That's great. But it's also very difficult to go from South by to, let's say, TIFF, because you're no longer international, world, or even North American. You're just Canadian. For me to go from TIFF to South by, should they want to take my second film, I'm still an international premiere, which has prestige. So we're very fortunate to premiere at a festival like TIFF as Canadians, because you still have a great potential to go to other great festivals. Once you leave your country, you've spent a bunch of, ritzy glitzy status premieres.
Got it.
So
have you have your people working on that?
My people are my Ima and my Abba.
Your mom and your dad. Good.
I know we're playing at TIFF, Vancouver, Calgary, and Cinefest Sudbury, and I'm thrilled about all of that. I must say, especially Cinefest Sudbury, because we shot there, the film is set there, and I got a lot of love for that city. I would like to go to a European city for sure, and I have no guarantees, but I'm optimistic we could play at South by, just because I don't see Janet, who's this amazing lady who runs the festival, hating the film per her taking the first film. And I've already spoken to her about, does it matter that I have a world premiere? And she's like, no, as long as we're an American premiere, we're good. And she wants to support the filmmaker she's supported before, so she'd have to hate it. I'm not saying at all we're in South by, but I feel cautiously optimistic we could be. So, just all of those in South by, I'd be thrilled. We have Canadian distributors now, and we certainly hope for, world sales, American sales. So they decide. I don't get to decide.
Right. So we're all working in this Canadian film industry. What do you think the biggest challenges for you working in the Canadian film industry are?
As a filmmaker, my only challenges are budgets, and they're reasonable. To be honest, from a point of view of a writer-director, if you're in the system and people start to want to produce the films you're writing and you get to direct them, the challenges are just challenges you'll find anywhere in anything. We're extraordinarily fortunate to have a system. The acting side is different, right? Because I got a lot of talented friends. I'm not casting them as leads in any of my films. I seriously cannot. I literally cannot.
Tell me why you can't.
Well, why.
No, that's what you're on the mic, baby.
Well, guys, we still live in that late-stage capitalist world. It's just a simple thing. No one's going to give you the money, even though your friends are beautiful and very talented. Some of them are even doing very well. But there's all these crazy charts people have, literally, I'm not being hyperbolic, charts that say this person is worth that much in these territories. And you have to have a certain kind of market value in film land, not TV land. It's even that. It's I have one friend who's done extraordinarily well in TV. He was the star of a big show that lasted a long time, but he doesn't have market value in film land. And I could not fund a certain level of a film. If the film was science fiction or a horror film, you're good. You can cast. We can all just do it together. But if you're making a small, you saw my film. It's not overtly commercial.
No.
Yeah. So
But it's so wonderful.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And I hope for more than just you work hard on something and you want eyeballs on it. I hope it gets a little bit seen, because I hope in the tiniest way it puts. I don't even know if it can put a little bit of love out. That's not for me to say, but I would love to travel with it to high schools. The festival run is a lovely thing for a filmmaker, but I'd love to go around to high schools in the States and Canada if it's appropriate for 16, 17-year-olds. I'd love to give my time to that.
Right.
I'd be very, very happy to do that. I know I went off track, but I think that we're very fortunate, all of us who are making films right now. I've done one that was a $1 million budget. This one was a $2 million budget. As long as everybody likes what I'm working on and I have a team that makes sense, it likely will just have a bit more resources, which gives you the time. I made my first in 16 days. That's the best answer. I made my first in 16 days and my second in 19 days. That's a little bit tough. And I would say that, it'd be better to have a little bit more time to make a film, the 24, 20 2 to 25 day range, and that can be tough. Just like well-known actor availability, everything. The money obviously is the main thing. But other than that, we have a burgeoning industry where there's a new wave of people that I'm just super excited to see their films.
That's fantastic.
Truly.
That's fantastic.
I hope you know me a little bit enough to know I ain't gonna bullshit.
No.
I can't wait to see Albert's film, Sonia's film.
Yeah. This is the least bullshitty interview I've done in a long time. So talk about your cast a little bit, because you like Neve Campbell is lovely in this. She's
Thanks
just
for saying that.
terrific. And Alex Wolff, not an ACTRA Toronto member, but fantastic performance.
Thanks.
So natural, and again, he brought such an innocent performance to this, horrific situation at times, and frightening as crap. So. Great job, and then clearly you want to work with Tom Cullen, because you've worked with him twice now, and he's also really terrific.
Thanks.
So talk about casting a bit.
Sure.
I think sometimes the actors think they go for an audition, and then it's all for some reason they think, oh no, they didn't like me.
Right.
But often it's not that. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, on that level, I guess it's funny to be on the other side of things now. And I have to be very honest, I've barely auditioned with my films, because a lot of the actors are offer only at this level. On my first film, I auditioned some roles for sure. I mean, to be honest, on my first film, Diana Bentley, who I think is one of the best actors I'll ever know, I was going to offer a role to her, and then I was like, shit, I should probably audition people, because it's kind of like, what if there's just some chemistry thing between her and Tom? We just maybe, so I auditioned a whole bunch of ladies. Everyone was great, and then Diana's audition was the best, and I gave it to her because she auditioned. But so it's a funny thing.
Offer only is when an actor doesn't say, they don't audition.
Right.
They'll just take it. The offer.
You have, and you have to. What is it called? It's like. Basically, with the actors I worked with on this flick, most of them, I would have had to give them the script and tell them that the part was theirs if they wanted it, to even have them consider it, which is fair for what they've accomplished. But in terms of the casting process on this one, there was an actor that was attached for a while, a Canadian actor, and he dropped out. I'm just going to be really honest about it all. Okay. And that kind of sent everything into a bit of a tailspin, but certainly in the end, I think resulted, funnily, in a very, very good situation where Imogen was already on board. Tatiana was supposed to play the role, and she got a Broadway show.
Oh, right. Yes.
And
Network.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which I got to see. She's so good. It was really good. But it's a funny thing, I mean, Tat is one of my best friends and one of the best actors on the planet, so she would kill everything and anything. But the world happens for a certain way and reason. And once Imogen was in it, it was kind of like, oh, this is just weirdly Imogen's role more than I could picture anyone now that she's doing it.
Yeah.
And
Imogen Poots.
Yeah, and I got to admit, it's like, it's an amazing thing with casting. Like, I just feel like there's a new person that, like, I would work with forever, and Imogen, within all of them. But, like, it's a funny thing where, like, you lose, especially an actress like Tat, who's also my best friend. It's like, I was so happy she got a Broadway show, but you don't, you can't express really properly like what that means to lose somebody that extraordinary. And also, she's like my sister. But then this new person came into my life where it's like, you are a different kind of sister, and you are a juggernaut. So I just feel like I got to work with truly some of the best actors on the planet, and it wasn't a strategy. It was like, we now have to start from scratch. So I have a really good LA producer who got the script to CAA, and they just brought up Imogen. I was like, she's always been on my mind. She's one of my favorite actors out there. I saw her in Green Room, and she's like truly rates for me with some of the top people on the planet. So like, definitely I'd love to talk to her. Then she was the most humble, curious, prepared, professional, but humorous, and I don't know. It's like meeting Tat and Tom for the first time. It's like, you're a cheeky, weirdo little alien person, and you're like me, and I love you already. So it was like that with all of them in different ways. Neve is, I had a little bit of an attitude like, shit, she's been famous a long time. This is going to be difficult. And she is the most Campbell, gracious, humble, professional samurai of a fucking actor. And truly, there's a couple of scenes, I appreciate what you said, and I think she's so extraordinary in my film, but there's a couple of scenes I just couldn't use because the film just didn't need them, where, like, it's up there with the best acting I've ever seen on the planet, and it's not in the film. She is she's a juggernaut. Alex, I can't really speak coherently because I love actors. Actors are brave people and they're curious people. And people, especially if people are famous, they say, oh, yeah, they're this kind of a jerk or they're this kind of a dandy. I don't even know what these things mean, to be honest. You don't know them from a hole in the wall. But I saw very courageous, very dedicated, very bold, and very loving people do really, really difficult work that costs them something. Difficult takes over and over again that, fucking crack your rib cage open and expose your soul like that costs you something. And they all did it over and over again. Keir and Tom and Kiowa. Star Slade is a younger actor. She's on Burden of Proof. I did audition because I didn't know her. And she came in on the first day and had the scene where she had to lean into the boy Henry, who Alex Wolff plays, and say, my condolences at the Shiva.
Right.
And like her first takes, she was 19
years
years old.
Girlfriend?
Yeah, she was 19 years old. She doesn't know me from Hole in the Wall. Everyone in this film's kind of, pretty well known, and she's like really new. And she just gave everything an actor could give. And you just look at her and you're like, oh, wow, you're an actor. You're just an actor, and you just came to play and work. And everybody was like that. And so the casting wasn't like strategic, and I don't believe in that. I don't like this whole thing of like, now let's audition 20 people. And I find it kind of rude to actors, to be honest. Like, I've been an actor for a while. The best way to get to know me is not to audition me. I can do that if you want, but it's stupid, especially if I have a couple things. Look at what I've done. Look at what I've done in a film where I acted with someone, not where I read with a reader. It's the least acting thing to do.
Well, you believe in families and you believe in connection in your world, and we're more and more now having to self-tape. So when you're self-taping, often you're bringing somebody that you trust to read with you.
Yeah.
So it becomes much more of a connected thing, and it's not some stranger that you haven't met before that you're just meeting at the audition. So that is, at least it's working a little bit in our favor in that world. But I wanted to ask you about actors, directors.
Directing actors? Also, I should apologize. I've never really answered any of your questions.
No, you absolutely have.
And then I'm just like, rah.
You absolutely have answered the questions in a brilliant way.
Oh, that's nice.
They called people an actor's director.
Ah, je comprends.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Je comprends.
That's also Hebrew. So talk
we
about that.
We actually said that on set a lot. That was our bastardized French.
Really?
Because me and Bobby are from Montreal, so I'd say that. I call him Bobs. I'd be like, Bobs, what do you blah? And he'd be like, well, I think this. And I'd go, je comprends. So now I just say that a lot. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Sorry.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm following you easily, and I
good.
appreciate that you're
good. So do you? You seem like the epitome of that because you come from the acting world.
Yeah.
And do you find that you get that response? That you approach it as an actor would approach a scene? Because I know you have to make sure that the camera is going to go where the camera needs to go in your image, in your vision. But what about where the actor's emotions are going?
Well, I do feel, again, I know I use words like fortunate and privileged a lot, but I do feel pretty fortunate that I've had actors like, Alex and Amy and Tom and Tat and Neve and all the actors who've had very demanding scenes. Like if you're a guest star on TV, I got to be honest, if you're a guest star in Canada and you see the audition and it says guest star, like that just means to me, oh, you want me to cry. That's just all it means. And there's crying where a TV director says, like, yeah, I think you need to be more emotional here, which is a line I've gotten before. And then there's like working with actors in a setting where you all get to play and it's about the process that we all go through together instead of results. And I think that my actors I've worked with, or the actors I've worked with, have all been very vulnerable, very open, very giving actors. And so in the kinds of films I've made where there needs to be a certain commitment and a certain willingness to go, let's just say, deep, I haven't ever been in a situation with small amounts of time where I've been like, fuck, I just need one take. I've been very fortunate to have extraordinary people where it's like, there's a wealth of beauty here. Let's shape it. Let's go here. Let's just go a little bit here. And so you got these professionals who've done so much work and are very good. And so you're like coming in at a level where it's like, you're all dancing, man. It's beautiful. So yeah, I got trained a certain way. I really loved the training at Circle in the Square. I really believe in the words being personal and specific. I don't ever want to I don't need to know what your life is. It's your business. But I work with people as much as I can in ways of trying to make it as personal and specific and ground it. However you use your imagination is beautiful. Mm-hmm. However you play is beautiful. But I do believe, and it's something I was taught at the school I went to, that if you can't in some way make it personal for yourself, then you're just floating up here instead of walking down here. And I think that I get actors. I think actors are people who love big and care a lot. You know, again, you get these ideas of like, that person threw a phone. Like, I don't give a shit if he threw a phone. As long as somebody got hurt, I don't give a shit. He's probably overheating a ton because every day he goes to work, he gives you all of his heart. And you treat him like a fucking robot meat puppet, and it's bullshit. You know, I don't think we should all cry for actors all the time, but I've seen people on jobs as an actor or in my films with such love for the world, and it's true, it's not hyperbolic. And so when you're starting from that place where these people have so much they want to give, you know that and you see it, and then it's just about like being human and just you know, not manipulating. Like I've heard acting teachers say like, oh, everyone you love died, use it. And I say, fuck you, mate, fuck you. That's an ugly thing to say, and I'm not going to use my tragedies. But I had a beautiful teacher at theater school say, no, you share. If you can share somebody who's gone in your work and only you know you're doing it, that's a beautiful thing. And you keep them alive a little bit. So those kinds of ways of talking at the theater school time really informed the way I try to work with actors. I hope I am respectful, but on a path. We're all on a path together. Mm-hmm. I probably look like a psychopath when I direct because I get into these things. I think I must look like Jenna Rollins from A Woman Under the Influence because I go up to people and I'm like, and they somehow understand what I'm doing, and it just goes.
So I'm going to flip it 180 now and say there were aspects of the film that I thought were just so arresting when you were doing extreme close-ups on Alex's face, on the lead man's face, and there's this. You could see the sweat. You could see the reaction to the drugs. And I'm going like, how do you do that? Like that's so technical and so realistic looking. Who do you depend on for those kind of things?
Well, again, I think I've worked with a lot of geniuses, and so it's a very special family. I love that you used the word family before when it comes to how we audition. I just put myself on tape for the first time in a long time with my dear friend Dave LaFontaine, and I love him. So I love that you say that because all I want to do in my films are work with my families, and now Amy and Alex and Neve and all those other people are a part of that extended family, I hope. And I think that similarly, Bobby Shore is a huge part of that family for me. And he is in life one of my very best friends, but in collaboration, he is somebody who I've learned so much from. When I was brand new, he did both my shorts and both my features. He picked me up when I was, an actor making a short. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And over the course of time, I just figured out a little bit more who I am and what I'm doing. And then with Bobby and with Zosha McKenzie, our terrific...
He was the DOP?
Yeah, sorry. Bobby Shore is a cinematographer, and then Zosha McKenzie is a production designer. Then you have amazing Jess Panetta, who's our makeup artist, and amazing Emma Doyle, who's our costume designer. And we all just get in the ring together, and their ideas are great. And then in terms of like these things of the sweat and everything, people either have a good eye and say, I think we should wet them up a bit more. We were using something called diopters, which was entirely Bobby's idea. I mean, I know what a diopter is, but it wasn't my idea.
What's a diopter?
So if you put a diopter in front of the lens, in the scene I think you're talking about, you just basically, it's as far as I understand, you're almost just putting a magnifying glass in front of a lens. So you're magnifying the image in certain ways. You also get certain interesting distortions. And it's just about getting an extra feeling out of something. So Bobby and I have the luxury of shot listing with my cinematographer very early on because it's for love of the game. So we just start talking about it early. So by the time we're shooting it, we're very prepared. And so with those kinds of things, it's like the combination of his great team and everybody that I just mentioned who are really on top of their game. You build that together. So
you don't worry about it?
It's too fast to worry. Mm-hmm. I get angry, like not at anyone, but I just get angry with like, like, you know, they say the film gods and all that. It's like someone gets sick or machinery breaks, and like I find it a bit hard not to be like, you know, because as a writer and when you're in the edit, it's up to your abilities, and that I love. But I don't get worried. I don't worry we're not going to get something that's true because of Bobby and Zosha and all these people and these actors I've worked with. I worry that everything will be beautiful and they've all done wonderful jobs, but you just put the pieces of the puzzle together and somehow realize like, oh, this is dog shit.
No.
Like, that's what I worry about, like, you know?
Has that happened yet?
Well, I've only made 2, but that's why I don't hate what I made.
Okay, so you're such an artist, clearly, soul of an artist and mouth of an artist and brain of an artist.
Thanks.
So now you've got to do this circuit. You've got to presumably go and be that person who is flogging their film at different film festivals or premieres, et cetera, et cetera. How do you feed the soul of the artist when you're doing all that kind of stuff?
I think, you know, like I'm doing it right now with you guys, and we joked before we started recording, I got time today, we could go as long as you want, but the truth of it is when it's pleasant and people are decent and they're a bit prepared and they're just humans, like, it's lovely to talk about the thing you worked hard on. I don't mind. It's when someone's a dipshit or, like, they clearly don't give a hoot about even their job, where I'm just like, when I was a bit younger and when I was an actor, I was definitely like, oh, thank you, sorry, all that Canadian shit, you know? And I do think we do that more than other places.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. It's funny.
But now we say it like Americans.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I don't even know what that is. Sorry. It's like a girl I went to high school with. Sorry.
Sorry Schaefer?
Sorry. Fuck, what was her last name? I don't remember.
Goldenstein.
It was one of them names. It was definitely pretty. Oh, I know what it was. Adelstein. Sari Adelstein. Hey, sorry. If you're listening to the ACTRA podcast.
So,
I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. I don't mind it. I also think that's the love I owe, you know? Like, it might be easier to not go to Calgary because I might be a bit burnt out from TIFF and VIFF and just want to, like, sit and write. But at the end of the day, if you're kind enough to bring my film there, I don't really like flying. Flying's kind of a dipshit thing to do. It's annoying. It's like, I don't like turbulence. It's stupid.
Yeah.
But I just think, like, shit, you want to invite me to come? Thank you very much. I'll certainly come. I went to the Yukon for my first film for, like, less than 24 hours, and it was a big trip. But, man, it was beautiful people there. What I find difficult is, you know, the sons of bitches. Like, the people and the machinery of it who start stoinking up to you because you got a shiny thing for a second. And, like, they ain't going to remember you before, and they're going to care about you after. And it's just so transparent. It's like, just say that you're this transparent at least. Just be like, look, I'm a fuckhead, and I just care because right now you're shiny for a second. I'll be like, well, thank you for the honesty. Sure, we can fucking talk for like sure. But I find most people pretty cool, pretty respectful. Yeah.
What are you working on? What's your next project?
I have a
Do you
third.
like to say?
I don't mind. Yeah. I have a third film that's in development with the Hal Greenberg Fund. They've been really instrumental. I mean, all the funders, of course, been really instrumental in my career, but they were the first people to ever get behind me at the feature level. And they're real film nerds there. I really appreciate the love I've gotten from them and from all the funders. And it's a fighter film. It's about a washed up fighter who falls for the widow of the man he killed. And I don't know if you ever saw my first flick, but that was a pretty straight drama. It's like a dark love story. And then this film obviously starts out as more of a quiet drama and devolves into a genre film. And so this film starts out more and continues on the genre stream. Still character-driven and my kind of thing, but I find it interesting, you know, what a fighter gives to their life, similar to an artist. You know, you can be a really successful actor. Everything, for whatever reason, dries up at 35, and you had to give your whole life to it, otherwise it never would have happened. And you're very good at this thing that you've achieved, you know, real success at, but you don't have a hope of making a dime doing it. And, you know, just the thing of a calling, and that thing of, like, you know, when you get your dream and it still turns into a nightmare. I hate this word dream. Somebody says, oh, you got your dream. It's like, dreaming is something you do when you're asleep. I just worked hard, and you know, people think, oh, you made it. I might never make another buck in this game again. So the film is about that on a level. It's about a guy who gave everything to the thing he had to do, and he got the thing he wanted, and still turned into what they call a tomato can. A tomato can in boxing is when you are basically not just a journeyman, but you're basically hired to lose. Not because you throw the fight, because you're fighting guys that are younger, better, and you're padding their records. So a guy that maybe won a world championship 5 or 10 years ago is still going because it's the only thing he does. And he, was in my film. The guy, his nickname's the Punisher. Used to be because he punished people. Now it's because he just takes all his punishment. And I'm just interested in that guy and what his romantic life is like. And I want to work with Imogen again. I haven't talked to her about this, but and I know which actor I'd like to do.
Is this actually an offer?
I mean, she needs to read it and make sure she wants to do it, but I think we got along pretty well in the first one.
I think there's definitely a correlation between boxers and actors.
I agree.
Because we're always fighting to get our careers going, and we're getting beat up all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
And some of us don't know when to stop fighting, and don't, even though we're getting
that you say it that way.
beat up all the time, all the way.
Also, just one last thing about boxers I want to say. I just think they're very brave people, and a lot of times boxers do come from more marginalized means and have to do it to take care of their families. And there's a couple very sad stories lately. 2 boxers died in the same week from injuries sustained in the ring. Mm-hmm. And I guess what people don't realize, people think MMA is more dangerous because the gloves are smaller. Gloves at the boxing level are that big to protect your hands, not your head. Mm-hmm. And one punch really can take a life. And I just think a boxer, an athlete like a boxer, is a brave person. It's not that easy to get into that ring.
No.
I want to explore that and hopefully do that with love.
Sounds fantastic. And so we look forward to that.
Thanks.
And you are an ACTRA Award winner here in 2017, and we appreciate all the work that you did as an actor, and hopefully you will still be acting over the years while you're directing.
Yeah, hope so.
And we so wish you well with Castle on the Ground, TIFF, and having your world premiere here.
Yes.
Right? Thank you for being in Toronto for that, and thank you for all you do. Brother, you're an artist.
That's kind of you, man. It's been real nice being here, and right back at you. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. I'm David Gale. ACTRA Spotlight is produced by Kaz Enright and recorded in ACTRA Toronto's Gordon Pinson studio. You can listen and subscribe to ACTRA Spotlight at actraspotlight.com or on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to like us and share us, and keep watching Canadian.